Welcome to session 62 of Through the Bible in 90 Days. Today we will take a look at three takeaways from Ezekiel chapter 36 verse 1 through Ezekiel chapter 47 verse 12. How God's promises to restore and renew his people both spiritually and physically. How God's restoration brings an overflowing abundance of blessings for his people. How God's presence brings healing and life to all who encounter it. I'm Dr. J. David Taylor Jr. Remember to subscribe, like, follow, comment, and share. Let's get started. Takeaway 1. God promises to restore and renew his people both spiritually and physically. In Ezekiel chapter 36, verses 24 to 28, God speaks of gathering his people from the nations, cleansing them, and giving them a new heart and spirit. He promises to remove their heart of stone and replace it with a heart of flesh, one that is responsive to his commands. Now, this is a promise of spiritual renewal where God's people will be restored to their rightful place with him. So for believers today, this passage speaks of the transformation that happens through salvation in Jesus Christ. And just as God promised to cleanse and renew Israel, he promises the same for us through the work of the Holy Spirit. So we are called to embrace this renewal and live in the freedom and righteousness that God provides. In Ezekiel chapter 36, verse 24, it says, "For I will take you from among the heathen and gather you out of all countries and will bring you into your own land." Ezekiel 36:26 says, "A new heart also will I give you, and a new spirit will I put within you. And I will take away the stony heart out of your flesh, and I will give you an heart of flesh." Ezekiel 36:26. Takeaway 2. God's restoration brings an overflowing abundance of blessings for his people. Ezekiel chapter 36, verse 29 through 30 says, God promises to bless his people with abundant crop, no longer allowing famine or scarcity to rule over them. Now, this promise of physical restoration also symbolizes the spiritual abundance that comes from living in right relationship with God. In Ezekiel chapter 47, verses 1 to 12, the prophet describes a river flowing from the temple, bringing life wherever it goes. The river's waters heal and nourish everything it touches, symbolizing the transformative power of God's presence and blessings. For believers today, this imagery invites us to experience the abundant life that God offers, a life that overflows with his grace, his peace, and his provisions. Ezekiel chapter 36, verse 30 says, "I will multiply the fruit of the tree and the increase of the field, that ye shall no more reproach of famine among heathens." Ezekiel chapter 47, verse 9 says, "And it shall come to pass that every living thing that moveth whithersoever the river shall come shall live, and there shall be a great multitude of fish." Takeaway 3. God's presence brings healing and life to all who encounter it. Now in Ezekiel chapter 47, verses 1 to 12, the vision of the river flowing from the temple reveals that wherever the river goes, life is restored. The waters heal the barren land, making it fertile and full of life. The river symbolizes the transformative power of God's presence, which brings healing and restoration and abundant life. So for believers today, this passage points to the life-giving power of the Holy Spirit, who flows through us and brings healing to our hearts, to our communities, and to our world. As we draw near to God, his presence flows into every area of our lives, bringing life and renewal. Ezekiel chapter 47, verse 9 says, "And it shall come to pass that every living thing that moveth whithersoever the river shall come shall live." Ezekiel 47:12 said, and by the river upon the banks thereof on this side and that side shall grow all trees for meat, whose leaf shall not fade, neither shall the fruit thereof be consumed. It shall bring forth new fruit according to his months, because their waters they issue out of the sanctuary, and the fruit thereof shall be for meat, and the leaves thereof for medicine. Ezekiel 47:12. So what does it mean to be truly restored? In Ezekiel 36, God promises the restoration of Israel physically, spiritually, and emotionally. See, the dry bones will live again, and the barren land will become fruitful, and a new heart will be given to God's people. This is not just a promise to Israel, it's a promise to us today. God desires to restore us, not just in part, but fully. He desires to heal the areas of our life that are broken, to renew us spiritually, and to lead us into a life of abundance. The question is, are we open to the restoration that God offers? Will we allow his presence to follow and to flow into every area of our lives, bringing healing and life? The core challenge we face is whether we will accept the full restoration that God offers. Ezekiel 36:24-28 tells us that God will gather us from the nations. And after he gathers us, he's going to cleanse us. And he's going to give us a new heart, a heart that is responsive to his command. The challenge is not whether God is willing to restore us, but whether we are willing to allow him to do so. Do we trust that God can take the broken areas of our lives and make them new? Will we let go of the things that hold us back from embracing the fullness of his restoration? What if we saw our lives as fertile soil, waiting for the life-giving waters of God's presence to flow through us? In Ezekiel 47, the river that flows from the temple brings life wherever it goes. The river represents the transformative power of God's presence. It heals, it nourishes, and it brings forth abundance. The breakthrough idea here is that God's restoration is not just for our personal benefit, but for the healing of the world around us. Just as the river brings life to the barren land, God's presence in our lives can bring healing to our relationship, healing to our communities, and healing to our world. So when we allow his presence to flow through us, we become agents of his restorative work in the world. So right now, my friend, this is your moment. Will you open your heart to the life-giving power of God's presence? Will you allow his Holy Spirit to flow through you, bringing healing to the broken places in your life and making you a vessel of his restoration to others? God promises that his presence will bring life to wherever it goes, and he desires to use you as an instrument of that life. Will you step into the abundant life he offers, allowing his river to flow through you to bring hope and healing to this world? I challenge you today. Will you let God restore you? Will you let God heal you? Will you let God make you whole? Ezekiel 36:47 promised that God's restoration is not just for the future, but for today. His presence is available to us right now, and he desires to renew every area of our lives. So will you allow him to take the broken and barren areas of your life and make them brand new? Today is the day to open your heart to God's healing and restoration. Will you receive his life-giving waters and experience the abundance that he offers? My time is up. I'm Dr. J. David Taylor. Thank you for joining us. Remember to subscribe, like, follow, comment, and share. And I look forward to seeing you next time.